Welcome to the Way We Win podcast. I'm your host, Robert Lawson Jr., and this isn't about success stories. It's about pressure, purpose, and the process it takes to grow through what you go through. We talk faith, fatherhood, legacy, manhood, marriage, and mindset, because winning looks different for everyone. Let's get to it. This is the Way We Win. Welcome to the Way We Win podcast. In this special episode, I have Mrs. Lawson, and I would say that this is winning conversations with the Lawsons. Hello, Mrs. Lawson. How are you doing today?
Hi, babe.
You looking good, babe. You looking good?
Thank you.
All right. Would you ever have thought that we'll be sitting here? You can look at me. It's okay. You ain't got to be nervous. Would you ever thought we'd be sitting here doing a podcast together? Yeah. Oh, okay. So when you think about
I thought
that?
within the last few years.
I
think you brought it up or said, podcasts, and and I always, I don't know, I'm a podcasty. I don't know if that's even a word, but anyway, I like listening to a whole bunch of different podcasts and different people, and I don't know, learning from other people. And it's always been like something that's been interesting.
Okay. So Mrs. Podcasty over here.
I don't know if that's a word, but
I definitely think she's putting more hours on listening to podcasts than me. So since you said you had the vision that we would be doing a podcast together, what would that podcast be about, or why would we be doing a podcast together?
I don't know. I think 14 years of marriage. I don't know. I might, I think a little veteran, we got a little time in. So maybe, marriage, parenting, just life topics.
Okay.
That would have brought us to a podcast.
All right. So 14 years of marriage, us weathering 3 daughters from the age of 13 to 6. So you think we have something to talk about, something to share, right? Faith, family, fitness. You got your workout in today?
I did.
Okay. All right. Freedom. We've been around the world a little bit. Been to a couple of continents.
Right. Travel.
Islands. All right. So we are here, and we're just going to talk about a few things. So let's see. So since one of the slogans of the Way We Win is built under pressure, how do we talk about how pressure has built our relationship, especially the early on parts of our marriage, relationship, dating? I don't know. How far back you want to go?
I think we just go back to the beginning of marriage.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think 14 years ago, obviously different people because it was a long time ago, but I definitely think that we were young.
Okay.
So I think we were like kids. Like I was 20.
So you're talking about when we married or when we met?
First got married.
Okay.
Just going to the marriage part.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were like 20 years old. I was going to turn 21. And I think that it was just a lot of pressures, like life pressures of trying to figure it out. Like I was in school and quickly, we got pregnant with first daughter, second daughter. So I think it was just like all of those things, right? Like being a mom for the first time.
Okay.
And being a wife, going to school, just so many things. I feel like it was just a whole bunch of different pressures that were kind of thrown in and had to figure out and maneuver through.
Okay. So you brought up a lot. I mean, we got married and 3 days later you turned 21.
Yeah.
Okay. So at that point, we had our first daughter 10 months later. But when we did get married, you were still in school. I was at a community college. You were at CSUN. And did people think that you were going to graduate?
No, I don't think anybody did. And it was like, oh, you could just wait. Y'all don't need to get married. You're not going to finish school. I think you heard all the naysayers, all the people that's like, oh, this isn't going to work, or just wait. And yeah.
Okay. So being 20 years old, being very young, how did you even know that you were ready for marriage?
I just felt like at that point, even marriage, it was like had been through so many different things together. And at that point, it was like, I don't know. I think God was just, I don't know, it was just like, this is the one, or however, like things we had always went through, always like circle back, and it was always us working through something, or us in connection, or something like that.
Okay. So a lot of people probably are asking that question, how do I know that this person is the one? And I think a lot of people have been through a lot of things with some good people, and a lot of people have been through some things with some bad people. So we got to be able to separate. Hey, just because I've been through something with somebody, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the one.
Correct.
Okay, so we got to give the people a little bit more of like or do you want me to talk about how I knew you were the one? Is that what it is? Okay, because I think I courted you after I figured out you were the one, but I mean, it depends on how far back we want to go. You want me to take them back to the 15-year-old Robert, or you want me to just jump ahead to the 20 right now?
Yeah, just
okay. So 19 years old, was just kind of tired of life, didn't really believe in God, but I started to go on my spiritual journey, going to church, trying to figure out if God was real. I was going to Love and Unity. And you're always a really good friend. Despite what we've been through together, you've always been a really good friend. And at that point, my main goal was seeking God. And I didn't care who was staying around to figure out. It was like, look, God is going to take the people out of my life who he wanted to be out, and keep the people who wanted to be in my life. And one of the main things that happened was, as I was on my spiritual journey, you've always been a good friend. You would show up to church and, read your own Bible, but you got kicked out of your house. You had a 72-hour time limit to get out of your house. I think I just got a job in Orange County working tech support, and you was working 3 o'clock. You don't need that? Oh, you ain't got nothing on there right now. All right. So I was working tech support. You were working at Starbucks, and you told me your mom gave you 3 days. I think it was a Friday. Friday. You got to be out the house by Sunday. And for some reason, it was a really easy decision for me to be like, all right, cool. We can find something. I don't know where was I staying with my dad? I think I was staying with my dad. Yeah, I was staying with my dad at that point. And I was like, all right, well, cool. I got a job. Let's find some place. And we were young. I don't think we were too in tune with our credit score or what we actually needed. We just knew that we needed to find a place, and we was applying to different places. And some of it, we had our visions high, our goals high, and we was like, I want to stay here. And we went to that one apartment by across the street from Jordan. Thought that they had a movie theater.
It was nice.
It was nice. Declined. Another place declined. And then at that point, as the time was running out, we was on Craigslist. We saw one place. And the guy said, can we see the place? He was like, well, before I show it to you, drive past it and go see it first, and let me know if you want it. So we drove past the place, and I'm from Compton. I don't know, she Bellflower, kind of Lakewood, but I was okay with the neighborhood. That didn't bother me. We said we wanted it. I think it was $850. Like that. It was like $850. I think it was $850 a month. And so long story short, we stayed together for a few months, head to toe it. We wasn't, smash and doing that other kind of stuff, but I was still seeking God. He's a really good friend. And then it came to a time where I was asking the pastor about shacking. And I was like, where's that in the Bible? He said it wasn't in the Bible, but it was a bad testimony. And then at that point, we had to consider not staying with each other. And I think that was a really tough decision for me, because it was like, oh, okay, well, all right, look, I'm still seeking God, not staying with you. I think it was a little harder for you, where it was like, we never committed to, hey, saying we were a thing or a relationship. We just was really good friends and seeking God, and it wasn't that complicated. But then it was like, hey, like, gotta move. And, and I was telling you, I don't know if you the one. Like, what do you mean? Like, we never put a title on it because we weren't doing anything like that. But I had to pray and fast about it. Helped you get your own spot. You got a studio. Moved back with my mom. And I had to really pray and fast about what I was looking for, because I don't necessarily think I was ready for marriage yet, but at the same time, I wasn't saying I wasn't. I had youthful relationships in the past, and if I thought about what I would want in a wife, in a spouse, in a partner, and I start thinking about Proverbs 31, a virtuous woman. As I know you, you've always cared about kids. Even when we got a chance to live together, you'll cook more than me. You'll be cooking and helping me out with my clothes. I mean, I remember getting some clothes from like the thrift store and stuff like, hey, just whatever we had to do to like look the part. It worked out. I don't know if he was ironing my clothes then. I think after we got married, he's ironing. He wasn't ironing my clothes back then. He was just coming home
Mm.
smelling like coffee. I don't think we was doing that, but we would cook,
Mhm.
and we just had he was a really good friend, a really good friend. So us taking the space apart and thinking about all the virtuous uh, characteristics of a wife, spouse, a partner, your spirit, um, and I couldn't see myself with anybody but you, and you know that's when I decided, all right, God, this is the one. I think I proposed in, was it March or April?
April.
Proposed in April and we got married in August. So for me, I did have to fast, pray, and really dive deep into what characteristics I was looking for outside of. So no, I definitely do think you're beautiful. But if I had to take the time to think about that, I think beauty is more of a shell, and the characteristics from God are more of the pearl inside the shell. So was looking for that pearl and had to make you Miss Lawson. So no
Mm.
long story, but
Great story. You summed it up.
little bit. So I don't know if you want to add to where you knew or if it was like I just took the direction. Did you see the change in me before I got saved and after I got.
Well, I totally think that you were a different person before you got saved, before you started, seeking God. I think that was, ooh, that was two totally different people. I think
Yeah.
anybody that knew you, before and watched the change or the evolution, like they could be a testament to that too. Like a totally
Mhm.
different person. So, yeah.
Okay. So if we want to talk about that part, then what things do you think we had to unlearn in our marriage?
Oh, we fast forwarding a whole lot of.
Well, I mean, if I don't know if you want to talk anything more about that, or why you chose me, or how you were ready excited to get married, or you want to talk about that before we
How we're
jump up?
excited to get married.
Well, excited, or how you knew I was the one, or you were ready to get married. You want to?
Well, I think I don't know. I remember being young and
Mm-hmm,
like always like knowing like, oh, I want to be married and have kids. Like I always
mm-hmm,
like knew that was like in my vision or in my plan for life. So that part I kind of already, knew. I don't
mm-hmm,
know. Had that envisioned. What was the
mm-hmm.
next question?
Okay, but how'd you know it was me? How'd you know I was the one?
I
Just
think
settled because I asked. It's just everybody out there. Yeah,
just
when
ask. That's
somebody
all you
asks,
gotta
that's
do.
all you got to do.
Ask the nigga.
Uh-huh.
I just it's weird. Like I just knew.
Mm-hmm,
I don't know. Like I definitely had saw, like I said, like a change. Like
mm-hmm,
I couldn't have married the, you know, 15, 16-year-old Rob. Like that wouldn't have worked out, because
mm-hmm,
you were just a totally different person. But like, as you started like, going to church and just like seeking God and I just knew
mm-hmm. Okay, just knew. All right, maybe we get more details later.
later.
Uh-huh. All right, so going to the next question. I mean, being married early, what did you wish you knew? Like what are some of the things you wish you knew before being married? Like that you have to learn along the way, like, hey, if I knew this or I knew
Well,
that or
I think, I mean, for me, like coming from like divorced parents and
Mhm,
pretty much not having necessarily an example of what a wife was, I feel like and still feel like I like coming up with this all on my own, right? So I don't feel like it was, okay, I'm following this rule book or I saw, you know, so and so do this. So I'm kind of duplicating that. I feel like everything that I kind of do is just, I kind of came up with it on my own. Like I didn't have like something to follow or somebody to look up to in that way. If that makes sense.
yeah, and I think that's some of the things that I feel like we or I personally had to unlearn is just because we are our parents' children, we're not our parents. And my parents got divorced too. And I definitely think they both tried their best, but I don't think that they were the standard of, hey, follow this in your relationship, or hey, do this as a person, right? I think that's why I'm grateful for the Bible that sets the standard of how you should treat your wife or how you should treat your husband. And but still along the way, I mean, we were still learning. We were still trying to figure this out, like two people who are excited to get married, but you got to go out there and pay bills and, oh, go to school. And now you have this kid, and you went from, hey, helping me and ironing some of my clothes to where, hey, it's just a baby. And I'm like, I get thrown on the back burner. Right. But no, I think some of the things, I feel like I had to watch for is, you see a lot of good from our parents that I think we can take, but then there's also some things that, hey, I don't want to be that. I don't want to mimic that. How do I find myself not being here? And that's why I just think just having a Bible, reading your Bible, and figuring out the person and the purpose that God wants you on to help better serve your partner.
Yeah, so. I think that was exactly, greatly summed up, because I think a lot of people, try and look to have their marriage look like somebody else's, or their relationship to, mimic somebody else's. And that's not always the case, because I think we even kind of see it now, like some things that work in a friend's relationship, they work for them, but that don't work for us, or that's not,
So always people in progress. We've grown together, continue to grow together. We're not the people we used to be. And I think we definitely are on a path to where hopefully in the next 3, 5, 10 years, we're better people than what we are now, as far as partners, parents, just people in general. If you were to give 3 pieces of advice to a newly married couple, 3 things, what would you give them?
My own 3 or our collective 3?
I want to hear your 3, and I give my 3.
Grace.
Grace. What is grace? Define grace.
I would say grace to me is, I don't know, I think it's like all like encompassed with like forgiveness, allow room for mistakes, because they're going to happen, so yeah, just constantly giving grace and being patient.
Is grace and patience one?
I don't know. I'm gonna think on the me.
All right.
And then I'll also have to say, communication.
Okay. What does that mean?
Communication. I think communication, being able to, talk, write, email, however you need to kind of get out whatever feelings you have, try and kind of get those out. I have another one.
Okay.
So I felt like this didn't, like, I didn't realize this one until being much older.
Okay.
But I do feel like addressing or dealing with some of like your childhood traumas or childhood situations, so like those will come back and revisit it in your marriage.
Okay.
So
example.
Okay, let me think of an example. Okay, so
you gotta bring it up. You brought it up. Childhood things is gonna revisit in the marriage.
So no, I just think anything. Like it could just even be like growing up, hypothetical. Growing up, I wasn't able to express my feelings, right? So then since you weren't able to deal with that or figure out like why as a child you weren't able to express your feelings, going into adulthood, into a marriage, you may not be able to express your feelings because you weren't ever allowed to do that as a kid. Or maybe you think feelings are not important.
Oh, she's bringing that up because I said, all right, so since you brought this up, I was raised to not be a punk. Suck it up. Like you didn't, as a young kid in Compton, and whether or not it's in Compton, I just think urban areas or wherever you are, feelings can tend to be a luxury because they may not serve you. So if I'm feeling a certain way, if I'm feeling intimidated, or if I'm feeling, scared, you can't be scared in the hood. Because if you're scared in the hood, you a meal. Somebody gonna take advantage of you. Something might not actually go in your favor, right? If I want to cry because I lost a karate match, I look like a punk outside, even though I'm just a sore loser and I came in second place. My dad ain't like, no, hey, tears ain't supposed to come out. So I didn't know how to express my feelings. So then as an adult, when you gotta go to work and you have to suck up stuff at work and this and that, like, you don't get a chance to feel. You just have to do what you have to do. So yes, later in our marriage, and this is like 10 years into it, I never took the time to ask and see how I feel because I didn't think that that was important. Right. So later now it's like, oh, how do you feel? And I never asked that question. I don't think I asked that question how I feel until my dad died. It was just like you go through life doing what you got to do because that's what you got to do, not because you feel a certain type of way. So
yeah. So I think I got my 3. Let me polish. So the first one will be dealing with or figuring out like childhood trauma, drama, things that happen in childhood, right? Because I think they'll revisit. So that's one. And then the next one would be like grace, favor, forgiveness. That's another one. And then the last one would be communication.
Okay. So 3 tips for young married couples or anybody just in general. We're trying to build a relationship, right? Good communication, grace, love, patience. I think that all kind of talk about love in general. Forgive. Oh, childhood. That's deep though, because I think a lot of people, you don't want to acknowledge that you've been hurt or that something bothers you or that you're a result of a certain environment or person.
Right.
So I definitely think that one, I mean, that takes a lot of self-reflection. And if anybody can go there, that's cool. But just know that's not an easy place to visit and come back stronger unless you're ready for some hard truths. And I would say do that with God. Don't try to do that alone. Somebody you can communicate with. And cool. Okay. All right.
Wait. What was your 3?
My 3?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I would agree. I would agree to an extent to where I think love, not your type of love, not just the surface level type of I think I'm in love type of love, but I think the love that's, you can forgive somebody 7 times 77, where you can forgive the faults and not necessarily look at somebody as intentionally doing something, but look deeper to, hey, this is a commitment I made before God if you are married, or this is somebody that I'm looking to be with for the rest of my life that is an imperfect person because we've all fallen short. And yeah, like you said, show the grace, show the compassion, show the mercy, and focus on what's right in the relationship and not who's right. I think we've been in multiple encounters with each other where we're both stubborn at times and we want to be right. I want you to sit here and be like, you know what? I was 100% wrong. I did everything wrong. You're right. That'll make me feel good and that'll make my ego feel good. But I don't think that's ever happened. I think it's always been, oh, you wrong. And then, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Or it doesn't ever fully get or communicated that it's that part. It's if we get into something, I say something, you interpret it one way. You say something, I interpret it another way. But it's what's right. What are we trying to accomplish? All right, well, whatever we're trying to accomplish, we want to be together and stay married. So whatever we're going through is going to keep us married. How do we communicate, like you said, better? So if it's, hey, you know what? I apologize that, that came off that you felt this way. My intention was this. How do we move forward? Because I want you to feel this way and not to feel that way. So yeah, I definitely agree. Good communication, a lot of love. I would say seeking God's love, not our own love. And then the last thing you actually said was the childhood traumas. I definitely think whether it's that or generational curses, I definitely think that that's real because I've seen some things that get passed on from one child to the next, and it's like that's no coincidence,
Mm.
And when they say the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, I believe it. And if you don't believe it, you haven't looked in the mirror long enough. So yeah, I agree with that statement. Cool. All right. All right. If somebody was to ask you, Mrs. Janae Lawson, is marriage still worth it today? What would you say?
I would 100% say yes.
Why?
I think that, there's ups and downs, like in
Mhm.
any situation and any circumstance, but I feel like God made men and women to be together.
Mhm.
And, men are supposed to have a helpmate. And, you know, I don't know. I like to think.
That's worth it, huh?
I'm laughing at your face
Uh-huh.
with your facial expressions. But no, I think it's just worth it. I think it's like in some ways, it could be like a partnership, like
Mhm.
everyone, giving their best foot forward or, putting in what they can and just making each other's lives easier,
Mhm.
um, helping out one another. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't imagine doing life by myself.
Yeah, I think that part. I mean, it just is marriage worth it today? And I would say yes. Just because we live in a world where it's all about me, 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 I think. And instead of, hey, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Hey, I actually am excited to be married to somebody that I get to try to serve or show up or be my best me for somebody else, right? So if it was just me, I mean, it's what's the motivations for waking up and like being your best, right? So I think, like you said, having a helpmate, having somebody to do life with, having some consistency, having a partner, like you don't always just because you can carry that couch by yourself doesn't mean it won't be easier with somebody else to help you. So I definitely think today, having that person to do life with, to help balance you out, to parent these kids together, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I definitely think it's still worth it today. And I'm grateful. So what does a healthy argument look like today? I think a healthy argument when we're feeling a certain way. One, I definitely have taken anger management classes in the past, and I feel like I can really get mad, and two things will happen: either I shut down or I blow up. It's just two things. It's I get really mad to where I want my point of view to be known, and I express it in ways to where sometimes you have to be mindful of the destruction that can come from being mad. So we've been in encounters where we said things to each other that have been brought up years later after they have been said. So there's some damage that you can do that is very hard to repair. Um, and even shutting down and not communicating, I think is just as bad as blowing up because then it's almost like you don't care. It's like it's not worth you giving the room the energy and the time to want to communicate. So then it's almost like a giving up. So I think going overboard is the first part. And then just walking away from something that you care about, that you say that you love, that you say you committed to is just as bad. It's like walking away from the job. Like you clocked into work. I was expecting you to be here 8 hours and 2 hours in, you just left. And then the other part, right? Same thing. You blowing up at work, you yelling at all your coworkers. So healthy argument today, I would say is goes back to one of the three parts you talked about is good communication with love, right? So the first thing I have to do is reflect on what's bothering me and why, right? So if I can reflect on what's bothering me, why do I feel this way? Okay. I feel mad because you said something that hurt my feelings, or I feel ignored, or I feel overlooked, right? So I have to kind of self reflect on how I'm feeling. And then once I reflect on how I'm feeling, I have to try to communicate that to you where it's not going to try to offend you or hurt you and make you feel just as much as I'm feeling, because that's typically what would happen. You make me feel a certain type of way, and I want
to hurt too.
you to hurt too. So I'm gonna come back at you and make you, oh, you making me feel like you making me feel little, you making me feel overlooked, you making me feel unworthy. You're unworthy, right? So I think the first thing, if even if I do self-reflect on how I feel, I want to make you feel just as bad. That's not healthy. So because I feel a certain type of way, I have to sit and pause and make sure I'm in a place where I can communicate that to you without trying to attack you back. Um, so if I can sit back and say, hey, it might take a 30-minute pause. Hey, can we talk at 7 o'clock tonight? Hey, when you said X, Y, and Z, it made me feel a certain type of way. And when I felt a certain type of way, I either wanted to shut down or I wanted to make you feel that certain type of way. Can you communicate on X, Y, and Z? Because did you try to make me feel that way? And maybe you did. So that's where it's kind of like it's a hard place, but I have to make sure that what's the goal, right? I don't thank you because you love me and you care about me that you would try to make me feel this way. Or hey, we're trying to stay married and have a healthy relationship. So maybe communicate with the end in mind. So just some starting points that we're still growing, we're still learning. But if I was to, talk about how does a healthy argument, what does that look like? I think a little bit of self-reflection on how I feel, take a pause, be able to keep the goal in mind of you want to actually stay married and stay in this relationship and actually be a better communicator to get through this situation. Hey, how do we work this out so we're not ending up here again? And then try to find a solution. Hey, next time something like this happens, can we try this X, Y, and Z? And it may not always happen that way. And I know you said last time you was gonna do this. Doesn't always happen that way. But I just think, just trying to keep the goal in mind. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Right. So I think the question being, what does a healthy argument look like in a marriage, right? So I think just, I don't know, thinking about that, I would definitely think like there's some sort of like boundaries to arguments, right? So, I mean, I think in marriage, in friendships, whatever, you have like these heated moments to where sometimes it's like, okay, like you said, like, let's take a pause from this. Like, this is, getting a little too far or, it's getting a little too elevated. And then just being able to take some time away, self reflect. And then, like, what is the goal? Like, hey, obviously, we in here because it's in a marriage because this is something that we want. So how can we come up with a common goal, or what is it that you were trying to get out of this? Or I think just important questions like, what was your intent behind this? Because this is what I got from it. And then also like, keeping in mind the other person's feelings and what do you say, acknowledging those and acknowledging the importance of another person's feelings in that moment. And then just also remembering grace and giving patience. And sometimes it is like, okay, well, let's take a little break, we'll come back to this. Or some things are just like, I don't know, just made me think of something on Instagram, and it's like, you ever see, two married people, get into an argument and then it wasn't that, so you're trying to break the ice. All of a sudden it's like, is the stove still in the kitchen? Like you just act like, and then just being able to like sometimes just moving forward and realizing like, this is not that deep, right? And then just knowing like, okay, that happened. We're able to kind of move past it if it wasn't, something that serious.
And most of the time it's not that serious. It just becomes that
principle.
serious. Yeah. It becomes that serious. So
yeah,
you have to let go of that principle and focus on the goal, the vision, where we trying to go, where we trying to be. And yeah. Okay. All right. We got time for one more. Let's see.
Question.
One more. So, babe, we've been married 14 years and you see me in some low moments, right? I got fired first time in I think my job career that I could ever think about because I've always quit jobs before. And that was right after we had Aria. So a few months after she was born. Um, E-commerce store started. That didn't go too well. Afterwards, had to get a job. So you've seen me through, and we've been through personally some low moments, but for the most part, being the leader, the provider, and being at the forefront of our household and being more feel like personally responsible of kind of like the direction of our household. How have you been able to navigate watching, stand strong, supporting? Like, what does that look like when those type of moments happen?
I don't know. So this particular question, it made me like, I don't know, think about, I remember like years ago, I remember my dad, like he used to always like have like these like landscaping businesses, or then that was like the targets were later, but like always tried to have like some kind of side job, right?
Mhm.
And then I remember like, he didn't always have that support. So I remember him telling me like, no, Robert, he, he like me. He always like to have something else going on. Make sure whatever you make sure you support him.
Mhm.
Like some of it will work, some of it won't work, but make sure you support him, right? But not having that example of what support necessarily looked like, it
Mhm.
was, let me figure out how to support him, right? So
Mhm.
let me make sure that, always, there, or that listening ear, or that, hey, like, we're gonna figure this out. I like to think I'm a little good with numbers. So it's like always like, hey, we're gonna figure, swing
Mhm.
this, do that, or like figure out the next plan, or just constantly like keep going, words of like encouragement when things weren't the best, or trying to, figure out other ways or solutions. But I would like to say, I think like we always had, multiple things. So it was
Mhm.
like, okay. And then you always were able to like have that entrepreneur mentality. So it was
Mhm.
always like, okay, what's next? Or what's the thing now? Or what are people into, and being able to easily pivot.
Mhm.
Um, and so we were able to, kind of bounce back. I felt like when things happened, like we weren't necessarily down for a long time, but we were able to, pivot, come together, and just figure out what the next step was, whatever that looked like. Remember, at one point it was like we were both like Uber and trying to figure it
Yeah.
out, but you do what you have to do to make it work, to make, ends meet, being able to, take care of kids and all that kind of stuff. I just think just being that support, being that, listening ear, encouraging word. I don't think I've ever like, said any, oh, what are you,
Yeah.
you quit a job back in the day, so I think just being that.
Yeah. I think I do appreciate you always being there. I think, I do have these dreams and visions, and a lot of times you especially in the beginning of our relationship, we were what in Paramount, our rent was like 1150. We had a two-bedroom, and you didn't even want that. Like we went from 850 a month. That's that little
Yeah.
one bedroom, whatever, and we got married, and then it was 1150. How are we gonna afford that? And we got the two-bedroom, and it was exciting. But I was working in Orange County, living in Paramount, and then I think what was the place in Anaheim was like 1450 or something.
Something.
I was like, babe, we can afford it. We got it. You sure? I don't know. I don't know. We afforded that place, and we're there, and then it was like, hey, we can move again. We moved probably
Yeah, we
13,
definitely
14 times
moved.
in like 11 years or something. So we had no problem moving, but I know a lot of my visions and hey, where we wanted to go, like you being there, you might question, and sometimes I don't know about that and do this. And like you said, some stuff work out, some stuff you'd be like, ooh, maybe I see, maybe I should have listened, right? But I think that balance between being there, being the support, trying to help to, figure out a way to make it happen. And like you said with Uber, they was having those $500 bonuses for like 20 rides or something. I was
Mhm.
like, I did that. I'm
Get
like,
your
hey,
rides, and
you
I
Uber
was
in a
in
day.
mine.
Do Uber in a day before it get crazy. I
Right.
think we both got those bonuses and we bounced. But doing whatever we have to do. I remember back in the day, like T-Mobile had their payment plan. You call them, like, hey, we got this right now. We gonna work it out. So I just think, just in general, being there to kind of help navigate, being that helpmate, and may not always have like the perfect path, but we've had a path. It's definitely been a flavorful journey.
Flavor.
Uh, yeah, flavorful. I think we got a lot of flavor in our relationship, because not everybody got the, you know what I mean, the ups, the downs, the rainy days, the sunshine, the wick. Back in the day, shoot, like a lot of people don't be knowing that you call somebody who got a food stamp hookup. Hey, look, I got $200, and you get yes. So I know, talking about people try to act like they ain't. It's been a while, but I'm just grateful for the journey where we've grown and came from, and actually where we're going. So yeah, I would appreciate you. So as we wrap up, is there anything you like to say for our first episode? Want to finish off with, or
no, I think it was a good first episode. I think it definitely kind of introduced people to us, and kind of give a little surface level. I think I think as we're able to like kind of talk about these things and talk about our marriage, I think it also helps the growth as well, and like some reflection, and you think as you're talking and things like that. So not just putting out advice or our story, it also helps us too. I think it's
okay. I would say like there's definitely a lot to unpack in
right.
14 years of marriage. So we're definitely open to comments, thoughts. Anybody want to ask us some questions, so maybe the next video we can answer. I feel like I'm a lot more transparent. So getting you to, hey, we talk about this, don't talk, so I think that part. But yeah, so I think what do you feel like the goal is for this podcast?
I think the goal could be to help newly married, engaged. I think that could be part of the goal. Just kind of even telling our story, or telling how we got here from, kind of where we came from to where we are now, relationship, and just different things like that. I think this is all definitely important.
Yeah. So I think behind the scenes, look, we're regular people too. God first. We're striving to grow in the areas of fitness, our finances, our family, be better spouses, and also freedom, travel, is enjoy this world and this time that God has given us. So yes, we just want to share. Hopefully it blesses one person. And this is the way we win. Winning with the Lawson Conversations. Let's go. This is the way we win. Built under pressure, built with purpose. If this bless you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. Let's keep winning.